Hey friends, so yoga. I've had lots of questions since Sunday about yoga. I just wanted to give you a little highlight reel about what yoga is, what it means, and then Christian views on that, particularly Orthodox Christian views on that. So, don't know if you guys know this, but yoga, originally Eastern, definitely some parts of Buddhism, but mainly Hinduism in terms of its root. Yoga literally means to yoke yourself to Brahma, to the eternal consciousness, eternal universal consciousness. And so, one of the things we need to understand that when we talk about yoga, and obviously the practitioners are called yogis. When we talk about yoga, we're talking about very ancient form of spiritual practice. So my suggestion to you is this, is that it is not just stretching. Now, even if it were just stretching, then we need to understand that most, not all, but most forms of yoga, the stretches are positions to align yourself with or worship Hindu gods. So Shiva or Ganesh or whoever. And so we need to understand that something within the context of yoga is deeply spiritual, even just the stretching. Now, what's really important to understand is that if we have an Orthodox Christian view of the world, we believe there is one God. And there is also one truth and one way to understand the world, which is how God created it to be, which means that the worship or the posing or the stretching or whatever in correlation to any other god is actually idolatry in terms of its worship. And so if we're doing yoga without understanding these things, then we just need to really get to grips with what the basics of yoga is. And so for me, my suggestion to you is that the stretching, posing, the doing of yoga, the practice of yoga is foundationally giving honor at least to the demonic, or at least to something that is not of God, that is not godly, that is not of Yahweh. And so we need to be aware of that. Now, the other thing just to say is that people come up to me and said to me, well, I do Christian yoga. Can Jesus not redeem yoga? Can Jesus not redeem those things? And my question is, of course, Jesus redeems all things, but it is no longer yoga if he redeems it. Every time that Jesus redeems something or someone in the New Testament, and this happens all the way through the Old Testament as well, there's a name change, right? So yoga in and of itself is a Hindu term, it's a spiritual Hindu term that literally means to open yourself up, to yoke yourself with the universal conscience of a different spiritual practice. So my suggestion to you is that yes, yoga can be redeemed, but what we call that is exercise. We don't call it Christian yoga. We don't take on the name of the Hindu practice or the spiritual practice of yoga. We call it exercise. We call it stretching. We call it doing all of the things that God has ordained for us to do as human beings to live healthy and whole lives. But the connotation, the meaning, the definition of the word yoga means that it cannot be in the same sentence as Christian. It's impossible. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And so my suggestion to you is that as you go on a journey to discover, learn more about these things that have become part and parcel of Western culture, part and parcel of particularly the New Age or particularly Western traditions of physical exercise. My suggestion to you is this, is that everything is spiritual. And you need to be aware of the things that are attached to these physical exercises. And my suggestion to you is that the redemption of those exercises is this: exercise, nothing else. Peace.